Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and I really appreciate you guys joining with me today. Today we're going to be working on a snowman with a hat and a sunflower. A lot of people do not usually associate sunflowers with Christmas, but it has been becoming pretty popular lately. You could always switch out the sunflower with a poinsettia or any other flower. You do not have to do exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to go over step-by-step instructions on how to do this, and anybody can do it, from somebody who's never picked up a paintbrush before, or children that are just learning how to paint, to people that have been doing this for years and you just want to try something completely different. I am going to be doing it on a smaller area. This is going to be a little handmade ornament, so I'm just keeping this on a smaller scale just to keep this video a little bit short. So now that I'm going to start, I'm going to do an outline of everything that I need. So I'm going to use white because I'm using Slate. If you're using something else, you do not have to do this part. So a lot of times when you're thinking about drawing, you could always draw everything out first with a pencil, or you can draw it out with your paintbrush. The nice thing about painting is that you can, if you do mess up, don't worry about it. You can always redo it or paint over it again. I love painting on Slate because it gives it that different texture than a canvas usually does, or wood. And if you are looking for Slate, we do offer it on our website, or you could get it someplace else. Now I am doing this upside down right now, that's why it's closer to the top, just to give me enough room for the hat for later. So I'm gonna flip this back over and make sure that that circle is perfect. And I'm gonna draw his body. And we're going to do his scarf. So everything I'm going to do right now is just putting everything in white first. And I think I'm going to make his head just a little bit bigger. I'm going to do his arms. Okay. Okay, now that I have my base coat of white paint on there, and I did a couple coats just because I have Slate, I'm going to do my base colors. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to cover the spot that's going to be red, just to give myself a base. Okay, now I'm going to take my black paint and I'm going to cover in the hat. I'm going to swoop down in front. And if you do mess up, don't worry, because you could always go back over with paint. Now I will go back over in this corner a little bit later once this is dry. Okay, Okay, now since that is dry, I'm going to do the brown. I'm going to take my very, very tiny paintbrush and I'm going to fill in his arms. Okay, so now that is done, I'm going to take a little bit of my black and I'm going to dip it in a little bit of my white, and I'm going to make a little bit of gray, but I'm not going to mix it on the palette. See how it's on both sides of my paintbrush? I like to do a lot of my mixing on my painting. So I'm going to fill in gray right underneath, and depending on, I think I'm going to go a little bit lighter, so I'm going to grab a little bit more white. Depending on what color you're looking for, you add a little bit more of that color. And that little bit of light gray is going to give that a little less shadowing so you can see the difference. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. The same thing with his hat. Now what I'm going to do is, because I want to do a little bit lighter on this side and darker to make it look curved, I'm going to start with a lighter gray here going to black, and I'm going to transition it. I'm going to do it with a little bit of a curve to it, and that way it shows that it's round. So I'm going to take a little bit of a bigger paintbrush, and I'm going to dip it in black and take a little bit of white, barely any white. I'm going to start in the upper hand, left hand corner. White than that. I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to, I need to be a little bit more wet. Start over here, and I'm going to curve it. Just like that. Take my black, just black, and I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to go around the side, and I'm going to pull towards the center. And then once my paintbrush is a a little drier, I'm going to try to blend it in the middle. It's a little bit harder with mine because I have that little bit of a crease there. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit more white. So I'm going to take barely any white, just a little bit on my paintbrush, and I'm just going to add a couple extra lines. Just like that. And I'm going to take my black and I'm going to just give this a second coat right here. Okay, so now I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna work on my scarf. So I have a little bit of a red here, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take my red, and since it's such a small area, I'm going to make this whole thing wet with paint. And since my lighter side on the hat is to the left, I'm going to do the same thing with my scarf. So I'm going to take a little bit of the white and dip it in the red, and I'm going to start to left. I got a little bit on the white on the right, just a little bit. We want more on the left. I want to kind of make it look a little streaky. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my little paintbrush and I'm going to dip it in the brown again. I'm going to go over it one more time. There's still a little bit of black paint on my brush from the hat, which is good because it will give this a little bit of a character, because that was the next thing we were going to do, is going to add a little brown to it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, see how we have the lighter side on the left side and the darker side on the right? You're going to do the same thing. So imagine you have a light over here. So you would say this part of the branch is going to be lighter and the bottom part is going to be darker. So this side's going to have a little bit of black. That's a little bit too much black, so I'm going to add a little bit more brown. And we're going to do the bottom, and that's going to show the highlights. You're going to do the right side black and the bottom side black. just like that. You're gonna do the same thing on the right side. And you're gonna go back and put the lighter side to the left. And that is gonna show you, or give that 3D effect like it is round. You're gonna try to blend it in the middle. Now, if you want, you could take, and I'm gonna do this for, I'm gonna take a little bit of white and a little bit of brown. I'm gonna go all the way to the left or on top. And like I said, that's gonna make it look curved. Okay, so now that I did that, I'm gonna take pure white and I'm gonna put snow in the corners like if it got caught. So right here, I'm gonna almost make a V. And I'm gonna put a little bit of snow in the corners, just like that. And the same thing over here, just like if it was piled up. I'm gonna do the same thing on the left. Okay. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to take a little bit of that red and we're going to add the fabric onto his hat. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go over it again. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the scarf. I'm going to do a little bit of the white to the left. I'm going to pull it over. Remember to keep your paintbrush wet because then that will help you blend. Okay, so we're gonna let that fully dry. Okay, so now that it's fully dry, we're gonna work on the face and the body. Now when it comes to Snowman, I like to do a little bit of blue for the shading and not black. Usually for shadowing, everyone always uses black. I don't want to do that because I always feel that it makes it look dark. So I'm going to use a little bit of blue with my white. I'm going to go over the entire snowman. now I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep adding white, and I'm going to add white in the middle. I'm going to leave a little bit of the blue underneath his hat, just for shadowing. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to add white around his face. I'm going to do it in the motion of almost a circle like this, and that will keep giving it its round effect. I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. Okay, so now the last step is adding, the last couple steps, I mean, is adding the nose, eyes, and mouth, and then the snowflake, or the sunflower. So for his nose, I'm going to just do a circle as the base. Maybe a little bit bigger. I'm going to have it curved. Just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my black, and I'm going to add the eye. It's going to be upside down U. I'm going to add a couple eyelashes. Do the same thing on the right hand side. And add a couple eyelashes. And we're going to do the mouth. Okay, we're going to let that dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to wet my paintbrush. I'm going to go get my orange again, go over the nose. And just like everything else, we're gonna add the highlight. And we're just gonna add a little bit of white and go to the left side. Just like that. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to take my white and I'm going to draw the outline of my sunflower. So I'm going to do the center. And I'm going to add my petals. Almost looks like a bunny. Now, if you wanted to have a red flower, you do not have to paint this yellow. And now I'm going to pour a little bit of my yellow. I'm going to go over the dry parts. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of the orange that I had for the nose. I'm going to add it to the left side of each petal. I'm going to add the yellow, go to the tippy top, and come back down. Now, because this is such a small painting, it doesn't go into depth on how to do a bigger sunflower. If you are looking for instructions on how to paint a bigger sunflower or more in-depth instruction, we do have that on our YouTube channel. Just go to our profile and click on click on our videos, and there's 2 of them for sunflower right now. We might have a couple more in the future. And now I'm going to take my brown, and I'm just going to add dots to the center. I'm going to add a little bit of my black, and I'm going to do the center, and then a couple dots around the center. I'm going to go back and add a couple more brown dots. Now when my sunflower dries a little bit more, I'll be adding a little bit more yellow to my flower just to fill in those little bit of a gaps and to straighten out some of those lines. And I'll do that right here. Okay, and we are all done. That is a snowman with a sunflower. Thank you everyone for joining me, and please remember to subscribe.